So you've found them wirelessly. And now what you have to do is you have to take all your documentation about what you found, including maybe even search and seizure on a laptop or a device, and then maintain that till you present it in a court of law. You've got to do what you've done in all of forensics. You're going to have to repeat those steps. So it's a good review right here. Document all the devices and connections to the wireless network. Photograph any of the evidence that you could actually physically get and actually keep all the packet captures at that point. Document the state of each of the devices during the seizure. And if this is somebody else's device that doesn't belong there, you may not be able to seize it without a warrant. And maintain the chain of custody and then all of that documentation until you get to a court of law. Remember, investigators are allowed to detect the wireless connections using the scanning tools, but they're not allowed to be active in this. They're not allowed to hack back. So be careful about that. That's a caution for doing a wireless forensics. You can figure out what the field strength is, and that's one of the other pieces of data that you're collecting. I found out a while ago, I was talking to one of my friends, Glenn Petier, and he said he's a ham radio operator, and he has a tower in his backyard that has a fairly robust signal because he talks to other ham radio operators around the world. Well, the frequency that the ham radios operators work on is the same one that is used by wireless access points. So at first he was accused from his neighbors of having too strong of a wireless signal. He said, well, I'm allowed to, even though it's unlicensed networking, I'll turn down my tower except for at these particular times. So you may run into somebody who's allowed to have a large wireless footprint. You also may run into people that are using European wireless access points that go beyond the 300, I think the measure is 325 milliamps or millivolts that you're allowed to use in the U.S. Well, you can purchase devices from Europe that go all the way up to 2,000 very easily, and they're in production for small networks. You're going to map your wireless signal that you have and map the intruding signal at this point to collect up the information for the court of law. Then you're going to connect to your wireless networks. You're not allowed to directly connect to their wireless access points because that's an interaction. So be careful about that. It's one place that I disagree with the EC Council. Use Nmap. So learn about this tool. If you're not a security expert, this is kind of security tool 101. I would say that if I only had two tools to do most of my work when it came to network penetration testing, I would have Netcat and I would have Nmap, and those two could suffice for most of what I needed to do. This will map the wireless network for all the live hosts on that particular subnet. And so this is just a sampling of the command. I would go back and read a little bit on Nmap. It's a pretty amazing tool. So you're going to acquire and analyze all the data from your forensics investigation, from all of your collection at this point. You're going to capture that data. You could use Wireshark or TCP dump. Those two tools will help you capture the packets that you're going to need for later analysis. When you're generating your report, let's go generic just for a second here. Okay, the name of the investigator, the list of wireless evidence that you have, the documentation of the evidence, and the supporting items that go along with that, and the list of tools that you actually used. In this case, there aren't, to my knowledge, too many forensics investigation tools that are approved on the NIST list for wireless forensics. You're going to have to reach into the penetration testing arena. You're probably going to have to choose instead of open source tools, you're probably going to have to choose some sort of physical tools like a Fluke, which is a well-respected network analyzation tool, and they have them for wireless specifically. The data that's produced by that is seen as more respectable when you go to prosecute in a court of law. Remember, you're also going to generate the devices, setups used. You're going to look at how you actually, the description of the examination steps, what you looked at, where you did. One of the things that you have to be careful of is, again, you can't actively attack. You've got to be passive in everything you do. And so if you present evidence in a court of law that says, well, connected to that wireless access point and did this, as soon as you said that, you've admitted guilt to an inappropriate activity, and then the opposing counsel is going to basically kick your case out, and you're going to lose. Get your conclusions together, generate that report, and bring that to your counsel. Maybe you just go and actually talk to the people and say, hey, this is inappropriate activity, and our next step is going to a court of law. Show them that mountain of evidence. You can usually get people to stop in wireless. I would suggest in a corporate setting that you use some sort of tools, kind of like Cisco's Clean Air, that will help you protect your wireless signal and stop rogue access points. But the big problem that we're running into today is not just mobile devices, but mobile wireless access points. So it may be inappropriate for me to have this phone and turn it on and share my wireless access from my phone, but by the time you track me down, well, I've left your property, and it's going to be unlikely that you're going to do search and seizure on me. So that's a little bit on wireless attacks and wireless forensics investigations. We're going to step now into some of the more interesting things of web attacks and forensics investigations for web.